Well, shalom, everybody. Ariel Bar Tzadok here from the KosherTorah School, found online at www.KosherTorah.com. Today is the 4th of October. It is 8 o'clock Eastern Time here, and we have just come out of the Facebook blackout. Couldn't happen to a nicer company, huh? Who knows who's behind all these things? We live in very, very strange times. I think everybody knows that. And what's happening in our world right now, nothing is like it seems. And I've always encouraged people, in spite of all of the fighting and argument and everything else that goes on, please recognize that everything going on, political, this side and that side, all the debates, all the arguments, this is all a major manipulation at a global level to distract the eyes of human beings this way, that way, instead of looking, if you will, up or within, etc., to recognize what we really need as human beings, and that's to evolve. We're right now after the holidays. Holidays are behind us, and I'm going to share with you some interesting stuff that I learned on the holidays. New topics, surprisingly. And we're in lesson 3 of our Kabbalah 101, the Basics series. That Kabbalah which your rabbis don't teach you. And tonight's class, we're going to learn one of the 3 Talmudic schools called Ma'aseh Bereshit, the secrets of creation. And again, giving us a little time frame here, we have just learned the weekly Torah portion of Bereshit, which discusses the first 6 chapters. Always very frustrating to try to teach anything of those 6 chapters in general, all the more so within the limited time scope. But I've written on it a number of places, and God be willing, hopefully within this year, we'll publish our Torah commentary. God knows how many volumes that'll be, but we'll get to it. And a whole bunch of other stuff that we are working on right now. For those of you who are supporters of our Kosher Torah School and get our supporter weekly email, you know that since my release of my book, Let There Be Knowing, way back when in May, I have been teaching specifically on the applications of using the holy names of the Torah in specific relationship to what really is the most important thing in the world, stripping it of all religious language, psychic development. Some would call it bonding with God. Others would call it acquiring Ruach HaKodesh. We have all these religious words which get thrown around like a tennis ball, banged back and forth, without anyone really ever understanding what they really mean. But we do know what they mean. We do understand. We know and recognize how our Torah is to be used as a stepping stone for the development and cultivation of higher dimensional consciousness. Now, before you get all flippy-dippy and weird with me, recognize that this is nothing new. On the contrary, it's something rather old. Essentially, what in the language of Kabbalah, we're talking about restoring the original state of Kedusha, connection, or consciousness of Adam prior to the episode in the Garden of Eden. And just for the record, pretty much everything you read about the original Genesis stories is all metaphorical. And yes, what the rabbis say, Ein mikra yotzeh mipshuto, that no story of the Torah ever strays away or contradicts its literal meaning. That's very true, but you got to understand what that literal meaning or pshat really is. And literally since Talmudic times, our rabbis have concealed what the real meaning of Genesis is all about. When Moshe Rabbeinu put these stories down, do you really think that this Moshe Rabbeinu was like a storyteller? No different from what? Hans Christian Andersen, or you don't remember those like Grimm's fairy tales, or any of the other modern stories that we read today? No, come on. Don't insult your intelligence to think that these stories that we read in the Torah were fairy tales from the olden days, and that's what these dumb, stupid primitives believed. You know, those dumb, stupid primitives were pretty smart and did a lot of stuff, right? Moses came out of Egypt. Egypt was not full of dumb, stupid primitives. And the slaves who came out and who experienced whatever happened for real at Sinai were genetically altered. They had such a significant experience far beyond anything primitive, anything fairy tale. So when you listen to all these secular scholars who want to say, well, the biblical stories were devised by the Peace School and the East School and the this school, and you sit and you listen to these people, and you know what? It reminds me of like reading Mad Magazine. How many of you remember Mad Magazine? Alfred E. Neuman, what, me worry? Right? That was such a blatant, silly humor. And a lot of these secular scholars are literally ridiculous because they take such wild, extreme positions. We're being rational. No, you're not. You don't even know what the word rational means. All right? And it becomes very, very frustrating when you're dealing with the polemics of secularists, anti-Semites, and all the rest who want to turn to the Torah and twist and turn it to make it look like anything they want it to be. And that is why we have such a deception in our world today, which, as you could see, is focused specifically at undermining what we call Western cultural values, which let's just sum up into a single one, in a single word: freedom. That's right, freedom. Oh, it gets very real political. What was the whole message of the Exodus? Freedom. What's the whole message of the Torah? Freedom. Oh, yeah, well, I don't think about it. I don't care what you think, right? People should already know, I don't care what you think, I don't care what you feel, I don't care about what you do. This is what the Torah teaches. Freedom is the essence of everything. And freedom, the greatest level of freedom, is like Rambam, master of the deep traditions, writes in his Mora Nebuchim, the Guide to the Perplexed. The highest level is mental emancipation, mental freedom, becoming free of all these deceptions, of all this reality, which we think is so real. This world really is like a matrix, like movie. And no, we're not parts of batteries in a big machine like the movie made. That's all, part of the fantasy. But the underlying concept is rather accurate. This reality in which we exist is one of so many. And there are multiple realities in which, pay attention now, each one of us is existing simultaneously right now. There are multiple yous in multiple different dimensions. Parallel dimensions, kind of like in the TV shows Sliders and Fringe. Other worlds, other places, other existences, all of which contain a spark of you. This is what we call in the Kabbalah nitzotze neshama, the sparks of the soul. And each one of those, in quotes, sparks or parts of us has consciousness. And when you connect, you are in that reality as much as you are here. That is why many times in dreams and premonitions, we see things, we feel things, we sense things. We meet new people who we know right away, for good or for bad. Because somehow, in some other way, in some other place, we already know them. These are the realities of the world, the reality in which we live. So, when we are going to talk about Ma'aseh Bereshit, the secrets of creation, we have to recognize what creation is really all about. When you read in the Kitvei Ha'ari, the writings of the Kabbalah of the Arizal, and I've taught this in great detail. It's part of the 8 Gates course that's available at KosherTorah, wherein which we speak of Adam being a collective, a hive mind, a Borg, if you will allow me to use the metaphor. We are the Borg, resistance is futile. Well, Adam, no, he wasn't a robot with wires in his head, was a collective, because the collectives are the reality of where we are. We're like drops of water. You put all the drops together into the ocean, and that's us. Okay? You don't stop being the drop of water that you are, but you recognize you are not an isolated drop. You realize that the entire ocean isn't you, but you're part of that entire ocean. And the ocean is alive. Our planet is alive. And everything on it is alive. Yet even inanimate objects have a semblance of sentience and consciousness to them. How do I know planets are alive? Who told me that? You know, that's that pesky rationalist Rambam Maimonides. He speaks about that in his Laws of the Foundations of Torah, of which, again, we have our course available for you online if you're interested in learning these things from inside the texts. Now, moving right along. If you want to understand creation, then you can't just understand a little itsy piece of it. You gotta like try to take a look at a bigger scope of things, or otherwise you're gonna miss the point. Now, if you want to say, "Oh, I want to be a nice Jewish person and observe my Torah and mitzvahs," great. But you want to know something that I'm very proud to say? Not all members of our kosher Torah school are Torah observant Jewish individuals, men and women alike. We are open, our doors are open to, and we are very proud to welcome and have as our students people from all walks of life, from all around the world. I don't care what your politics are. I don't care what your sexual orientation is or isn't. I don't care if you have 1 sex, 2 sex, 3 sexes, or 4 sexes. I don't care if you have horns coming out of your head. What difference? You want to sit and learn the Torah? I am honored to be here to teach. You might not like what you hear, but you're gonna get it. You're gonna hear it if that's what you want. Okay? And if you don't want, that's the great thing I love about a door. A door works both ways. You see, you can walk in a door, or you can walk out the door. The one thing that I'm honored to say with our KosherTorah school is we are not an outreach organization. I'm not here like other movements politically to gather hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah, it would be nice to have money to put a roof over our head, but God knows what our needs are and will provide. We're not here to make everybody in our image. We're here to provide a service, a teaching, a path for those who recognize from somewhere that this is right for you. And if it is, then you're welcome. And that's why we're here. And that's it. No pressure, no anything, just is. Now, the secrets of creation. You're going to look into the Genesis, and you're going to read stories about the 6 days of creation. And when you try to read these things in English, Spanish, or French, you know what? Just close the book. Don't even bother wasting your time. Because if you think you're going to really walk away with an understanding of Genesis, I don't care what Bible. I don't care if you're reading Art Scroll, King James, whatever. It doesn't matter. You know, you're just not going to get it. You're going to get a nice story, Hans Jewish Andersen fairy tales kind of story. In the beginning, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Oh, poof, magic. Yeah, okay. You don't even know what light is. I mean, even Rashi, famous, standard commentary, makes it a point that this is not the light that's lighting up the room right now. Photons. All right. The light of day, the light of night, that came around on the 4th day, right? When he says, "Let there be moon and stars," and all that. And yet there's still day 1, day 2, day 3 before there was even a sun and a moon to date time. How'd that happen? And how long is a day? Oh, how many people do I hear stand in their soapbox yelling and screaming, a day is just like it is today, 24 hours. Because God, on his holy Rolex, that's the way it is. Who the heck told you that? The day of the Lord is like 1,000 years. It's, yesterday. It's a quote. So the day of the Lord is 1,000 years, all right? Each day and each night is 500 years apiece. But by whose standards, time of measure? Aryeh Kaplan, God rest his soul, translated in his book, I think, The Age of the Universe, an old teaching from Rabbi Yitzhak of Akko, who looked at the age of the universe from a Kabbalistic point of view, understanding the words and teachings of the Torah and our sages, and came to the conclusion that based upon our modern measurement of time, our universe is 10, 15 billion years old. Curiously, coincidentally, ballpark about the same age as what they found with the Big Bang. You have scholars, professors, I think, like Gerald Schroeder. Well, I'm pretty sure was an MIT professor, wrote a book, Genesis of the Big Bang, where he tries to help reconcile dates and times of how we present ancient Semitic literature and metaphorical terminology. Better understand this, because this doesn't come through in the English, French, Spanish, and other translations of the Bible. You must understand the nuance, the subtlety of the literature. Well, this is the word of God that God gave to Moses. Of course it is. That's how we believe. But it also makes very clear, as it says, God speaks in the language of man. God did not reveal advanced mathematical formulas, deep secrets of quantum physics and the like to Moses to put in the specific pshat or writing of the Torah. Because remember, this is like 3,500 years ago. I don't think people would have, what the heck is a quantum? They weren't at that place. So it all had to be concealed in codes so that each and every generation where you have an expansion of consciousness and awareness, more and more becomes revealed and exposed. And that's exactly what I'm doing and others have done before me. So these codes are real. The teachings in it are real. Similar to this, there's a teaching in the Zohar, in which Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is quoted as saying, if all there was to the Torah was all the stories that we just read at their superficial, simplistic level, we could write a better Torah today. And that's kind of true. We've just going into now the portion of Noah. And Noah has all these genealogies. Oh, God. This one, Ham gives birth to this one, Shem gives birth to this one, blah, 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 blah. I mean, you know something? If this is the profound divine word and the secrets of the universe, ancient genealogies is not really my interest. But there's something a lot more to it than that. And those are where we discover the codes. Like I said, this is the material I'm now teaching my private students. I started this in Let There Be Knowing, and I'm expanding on it, and God be willing, we'll have a new book out by the end of the year. But hopefully a lot of this stuff up till where I'm at, written about that. But I'm going to digress for just a few minutes to have some fun. Yes, we rabbis like to have fun. I know everybody wants to be all so serious. Oh, you have to be very serious. You know what? For those of you who don't already know me, sometimes I get a little wild and, I'll post some of my more whimsical things on Facebook and other places. Quotes, stuff from the old 60s television programs that I watched growing up. So, for example, today I was in the gym and today was treadmill day. So I was on the treadmill. Boy, I need to do more treadmill. So what do you do on a treadmill? Oh, I could listen to deep, serious Torah commentaries. Please. You know what? I do Torah all the time. I lighten up. And I found online, I downloaded old episodes from the 1960s TV show with, what was Don Adams, Barbara Feldon. How many of you remember Get Smart? Chief, Agent 86 Control. Very, very funny stuff. All right, sometimes you need to lighten up. Remember, that's also part of creation. So speaking about lightening up, I want to share with you a book that I got Erev Shavuot. Here is the book. Okay? It is called Otsar HaPeleot, the treasury of all the wondrous things. And my friend Rabbi Nissan from Sparring Center sent this to me. And I said, okay, interesting. What's it all about? It says here, Otsar Inyanim Nistarim Miple'e Ha'olam. This is the treasury of all the interesting secrets, the wonders of the world. That sounds pretty cool. It's all about secrets of creation. So, flipping through the book, I came upon one section here that I was reading. I'm going to show it to you. People, you don't believe this stuff is real if I don't show it to you. So I show. Yeah, this is the section. You can see right there. For those of you who know the Hebrew, it says Kuntres be'inyan. Right? Hasirani. Hasirani. Sirani. What is that? Like Syrian? What is a Sirani? Well, it says right there. It's from Torah Kohanim, Parashat Shmini, Parashat Gimel, Perek Dalet, Psikta Zayin. So that's something serious. This is something real. Now, we have a word in English, but it's not like that in French, because I showed this to Rabbanit. She recognized it right away. Sirani is a siren, or a siren. That was the old European word for what we call a mermaid. Yes, believe it or not, there is an entire book here of halacha and teachings, no, it's not Syrian, which talk about mermaids. Yeah. In all due respect, I spent Sukkot Yom Tov learning about mermaids. Well, you want to know something? It doesn't go far from home, right? I am Ariel, and from what I hear, Disney stole my name and turned me into the Little Mermaid. So I guess I'm a mermaid too. We all fit in together. Now, there are interesting halachot with regards to mermaids that I'm sure you've never considered. For example, is a mermaid a woman or a fish? Now, why would that make a difference? If it's a woman, are you allowed to marry her? Can you marry a mermaid? Well, gee whiz. Can you have children with a mermaid? Is she considered Jewish? Does she need to convert? This is real stuff. I'm not making this stuff up. They really ask these questions. Now, if she's a fish, does she have scales and fins, and would it be kosher to eat her? Don't you get nasty and dirty with me on that. This is real stuff. This is real book. I'm telling you, it's in the book. If you know Hebrew, go read it. Now, just when you thought things couldn't get more interesting, another section of the book, I'll show it to you right here. For those of you who can read, this is called Shoot, which means She'elot Uteshuvot, which is halachic questions, Be'inyane Bari'at HaGolem, with regards to creating a golem. What are the laws of a golem? And they ask very real halachic questions. If you could create an artificial man, what is the law if you killed him? Does that violate thou shalt not kill? What is the law? Actually, they asked this question. I can't believe but they did it. I'm going to tell you. It's in the book, so I'm going to tell you. And just in case you go, too bad. If you create a golem and you have a homosexual desire and you have a relationship, you know what I mean, with a golem, does that violate the law? These are the questions that's asked in the book. Wait a second. I know you people don't believe me when I tell you these things. Let me see. Do I have the page here? Yeah, there it is. Yeah. There's the question. All right, you can see it right there. For those of you who don't believe me, you don't think they ask these questions. They do. Now, when we want to come to understand the wonders of creation, our rabbis are not these boring, primitive types who are sitting back, let's talk just about the kosher laws and stuff, right? For those of you who've been following what's new in kashrut, the company that makes the Impossible Burger has come out now with, I think they call it Impossible Pork, where they're going to come out with a plant-based burger or something, I don't know, which is supposedly pork flavored. Now, the OU, which is the big organization for certifying, said, no, that's too controversial to them. They don't want to say that there's kosher pork. And I posted this on my Facebook page, and I said people can comment. And there are those who say, I don't touch any kind of that artificial stuff, the processed foods, garbage. Well, it's not, what can I say? They're probably right about that. But from a letter of the law, what's the deal? Well, it's a plant-based product, so technically it's kosher. And if OU doesn't want to certify it, probably somebody else will. And we already have, there's a product, what is it called? It's like an additive to salads called Bacos. It's like little bacon chips. They're not real, pork or God forbid anything like that. And they're kosher. So these are the things our rabbis have to know this stuff. They have to be aware. They have to be involved. So when you want to understand, oh, by the way, you think this book was written by somebody crazy? Oh, no. This is actually written by a member of the Abu-Chatzera family. So it's an authoritative book. It's got what we call haskamot and everything else. Now, when it comes to understanding the greatness and wonders of creation, this is why when I look to the stories in Genesis and I see how people, somebody's asking if there are photos of mermaids in the book. No. You want a picture of Ariel, the little mermaid? You got me. That's about as close as it gets. Yes, but anyway. You make me lose my train of thought. You make me think like that. But getting back to Genesis. The secrets that are there, they're so deep. How can I expect to express this to you? All I have are words. So no, there are no pictures. You want to talk about flying saucers and UFOs and all the ETs from inner Earth, outer space, multiple dimensions, they're all there. Our governments have been involved with them. Chaim Eshet knew what he was talking about. This is all old school, old stuff. Those of you who say, I don't care what you believe, right? Have you ever still stuck in Plato's cave and you don't want to see the greater world around you? Oh, who cares? You'll be left behind. If you really want to know, are there really mermaids in the ocean? Well, I guess we could rent a boat, go out to the Bermuda Triangle. Let's see what happens. I think maybe I was telling the Rabbi, maybe one of these days, the Rabbi, you should know, absolutely loves and adores Miami. She would drag me there in a heartbeat if she could. In that respect, I have nothing against Miami. I'd go there with her any time, but not to live, obviously. But if we ever get the chance and get a boat and go out to like the Bermuda Triangle, go looking for mermaids, what would you do if you ever found one? No one in the world is going to believe you found a mermaid. Now, will they? How about Godzilla? Oh, there's no such thing as Godzilla. Rabbi, you're really pulling our leg now. Oh, really? Now, the book of Job. Remember the book of Job in the Bible? History, novel, doesn't matter. Makes mention of the Leviathan. All right? And if you read in the book of Job, the way that the Leviathan is described really sounds like Godzilla. It really does. But if you read later philosophical literature, then the Leviathan has been now metaphoricalized. And it represents this, and it represents that. And they killed this one and left the other one alive, and its meat's going to be eaten by the righteous in the world to come. Yeah. Okay. Wonderful metaphorical way of interpreting something literal. Literal? What makes me think that it's literal? Well, it's a very interesting story that's revealed, that's discussed in the Agadot of the Gemara, in which Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Eliezer were once on a sea journey. And one night, they were out on the deck of the ship. I think it was Rabbi Eliezer. Forgive me if I get my rabbis mixed up. I think it was Rabbi Eliezer. He's out at night. It's a nice dark night, and he looks down into the ocean waters, and he sees two big red eyes staring up at him from the water. Well, like anybody else, Rabbi Eliezer freaked the tickets out, ran down, wake up Rabbi Yoshua. There's something in that water over there. It doesn't look kosher to me. And Rabbi Yoshua says, you saw the Leviathan. Now, why would they put a story like that in the Gemara if it wasn't legitimately true? There are a lot of secrets in this world. Another section in this book that's discussed is on the identity of what's called the Adonai Siddhe, Lord of the Field, which in Tractate Kileim is described curiously as either of the form of a human being or a dog, which supposedly at its navel has a long tentacle going 50, 100 feet long that attaches it to the ground. And it has grown out of the ground. Plant man? Plant dog? I don't know. And if you cut it, the thing dies. Now, one of the curious discussions here, he brings down from numerous sources, is whether or not that whole tradition of being attached to the ground through this cord at your umbilical cord or whatever is actual or not. And he goes and speculates that maybe what we're really talking about here is what we today call Sasquatch, Bigfoot, the Yeti. Do these things really exist? According to our sages, they do. When we talk about the secrets of inner earth, and we talk about things like centaurs, and other types of half-human, half-animal type things, according to our sages, these things are quite literally real. How can you prove or disprove? Why would you ask me a question like that? I'm sure the Rabbanit would most likely object if I brought home a centaur as a new pet for the house. Where would we keep a centaur? Huh? Half man, half horse, right? All right. The dogs would have a field day. And then again, if I brought home a mermaid, she'd probably get really jealous at me. Now, the Rabbanit, as you know, is a vegan. She doesn't eat. But I'll bet you if I brought home a mermaid, she would declare it a fish. Of course you can have fun with this stuff. Is this stuff real? The only way you can ever know is not to take your boat out to the Bermuda Triangle and go looking for mermaids. Is not to go searching the forests for the Yeti, Sasquatch, or whoever else is out there. You have to explore in the only way that we can ever do that. And that is by practicing Sodot Ma'aseh Bereshit, the secrets of creation. I mentioned the golem. And we say from tradition that golems are created from the Sefer Yetzirah. Now, for those of you who don't already know, I've taught hours and hours. I've lost track of how many hours I've taught on the Sefer Yetzirah. When the COVID virus pandemic started, I taught, I think it was about 20 minutes every day through the beginning, covered the entire book of Sefer Yetzirah and 96 lessons. And it's available on my YouTube channel, free, for those of you who want it. And I have other deeper levels of the Sefer Yetzirah For those of you who want to purchase the courses, go to KosherTorah, you'll see them there. But now, what is this Sefer Yetzirah all about? Well, it's readily available in English. Obviously, one of the pet projects that I have in the back of my head that I want to do before I die is to actually write a comprehensive commentary to the Sefer Yetzirah to teach how, for real, it's supposed to be used. I've been talking about this stuff for years and years and years. I'd like to put it all down into a place. So if you want to pray for me, pray that God should bless, should have length of days and health and wealth. So one of the projects to get done. But let's talk about it now in the time that we have left. Because if you really want to understand the secrets of creation, like I said, I'm not going to tell you the Kabbalistic ideas of the Ariel and the Sephiroth Partsufim of Zer Anpin and what happened in the Gan Eden with the fall from one level to the next. You want to learn that school? Classes are available in the 8-gate course and take it from there. Now, what we need to understand is how to experience creation for real. And surprise, surprise, that is what the Sefer Yetzirah is all about. You see, modern Kabbalah, and I have my pet peeves against modern Kabbalah. It's how I was raised and educated. It's what we call theoretical, iyuni. And when you study the Zohar and the Kitvei Ari and all this stuff, you're learning, for lack of a better way to describe it, a metaphysical philosophy, which is all well and good, really nice, entertainment. It's educational entertainment. You walk away going, ooh, that's really cool, but you really can't do anything with it. It would be compared to say you want to build yourself up, you want to have big muscles, you want to have a bodybuilder's build. So you go and you read all the books about bodybuilding, you look at all the pictures of the guys lifting weights and go, wow, that's amazing. I want to be just like that. Well, then you better start closing the books, get to the gym and lift weights. I'm sure you understand from that example what I'm talking about. Because whether we're dealing with the school of Ma'aseh Bereshit or Ma'aseh Merkava, both schools are specifically designed to expand consciousness, meaning experience, so that you can actually reach out and touch and deal with these things. So when we talk about the rabbis of old creating golems, be they human beings, be they animals, these things were never taken as fairy tales and stories. These things were understood quite literally. And when the rabbis write about these things in this book and other sources, one of the great sages of European times was a rabbi from Amsterdam named Hacham Tzvi. In his responsa literature, he was asked the question, Rabbi, every now and then we get short in a minyan. Is it possible that I can bring a golem to the minyan and count it in as one of the 10? Now, something, we might have a few guys who come to minyan who might be a little not on the bright side. But I've never seen anybody actually bring their pet golem to be counted in the minyan. But the rabbis take this seriously. Do you count the golem? Is the golem considered a Jew? Is it a Gentile? Is it even a human being? Well, what makes you say this? What makes you say that? Question is, why would Hacham Tzvi even entertain such a question? Modern rabbis would say, oh, don't waste my time with stupid nonsense. None of that's real. But it is real. How do I know? Go out and see for yourself. The Sefer Yetzirah. If you look at the book, real short, simple, and sweet. Somebody is asking in text, what is a golem? Google it. It's an artificial life form. What the Tibetan Buddhists would call a tulpa. All right? I reveal a big secret with that one too. But anyway, getting back to the stuff. When you learn the Sefer Yetzirah, it begins by talking about the Sephiroth. But the Sephiroth, as they are discussed in the Sefer Yetzirah, are very, 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 very different from that which is discussed in later Kabbalah. Nowhere in the discussion of Sephiroth, now there are 10, we know that, is there given the names of Keter and Chokhmah, Bina, which we all know. But when you look at all the commentaries on the Sefer Yetzirah, including Kaplan's, which are written from the theoretical schools, then that's all they talk about. They're not teaching you how to go to the gym and lift the weights. But that's what I want to teach you. Because I feel the only way you're ever going to know is to see and experience personally. So the secrets of Ma'aseh Bereshit talk about this ethereal energy called the Sephiroth. What they are, how they are, well, they're intentionally described in a nebulous way. Why intentionally? Because it's not a physical energy. You know, one of the interesting things that Ramban Nachmani writes in his Torah commentary about creation, when it says in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, Ramban Nachmani brings down an old Greek idea, which has completely been embraced and adopted by all Kabbalistic sources, you should know, that in the beginning God created only one form of matter called the chiyuli, or the prima matter. Now, we know matter, as we understand it today in science, is both plasmic, not both, but 4 levels of plasmic, gaseous, liquid, solid. Modern science and technology is dabbling with all this stuff and finding all kinds of new interesting combinations of this stuff. They're dabbling with the Sefer Yetzirah by any other name. This prima matter, this 5th element, we know it very well. The Kabbalah will call it the Keter, the Adam Kadmon, or the Ratzon. In other sources, it is called the life force energy. They'll call it prana, or chi, or ki, or kundalini. It's all the same. Energy is energy. And before you get all bent out of shape by saying, well, those are all unclean tumah systems. They're all idolatry. Well, idolatry that may or may not be is irrelevant. Just energy is energy. And you use fire. I assume you do, right? You cook your food, don't you? Don't you realize that the people in ancient days used fire as their symbol of offering their children to the evil false god Molech? Yeah, they used to throw their kids into the fire. So how dare you use fire? No more fire. That'd be a little crazy, right? There are deities that pour water as libations to. No more water. Yeah, okay, so stop using fire, stop using water, don't even breathe anymore. You can't think like this kind of ridiculous foolishness, please. When it comes to understanding the wisdom of the East, there's a lot of wisdom in there. There really is. You extract the essence from the forms which are incongruent with our Torah observances and move on. Now, moving right along with this, the Sefer Yetzirah in the following chapters talk about letters. And there are combinations of letters. And there are multiple combinations of letters. And they talk about how to combine the letters. But the one thing that's hinted to in the text is the chant. The chanting of the letters, which is the foundation of the Abulafia system. You find in the Sulam Aliyah, the Shaarei Tzedek. People today don't get what chanting is all about. It's not rock and roll music. Da 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 da. A B C D Aleph Bet Gimel. Oh yeah yeah. Forget that stuff. You know what? Real chanting is meant to be an avenue of expression of the deepest levels of the heart, your emotions, your guts. So, in order to tap into that, like the biblical prophets, it says, if they wanted to achieve prophecy, they danced to music. The biblical prophets, the closest thing we'd see to them in modern day in Judaism are the Hasidim. Because the Hasidim will go off with their music and they go crazy and stuff. And then they go off into trances. And it's a shame that the modern Hasidic schools that go off into these wild musical, trances, it's a shame that they don't practice the proper tonage and the chants of specific sound combinations, because then they'd go into trance, they'd reach Ruach HaKodesh and become prophets. Yeah, it's always there. The doorway's always there. But this is what we need to understand about the secrets of creation. Remember, in the Gemara, Tractate Hagigah, chapter 2, it is said that this, secrets of creation, why is it a secret? It's one of the 3 schools of the real secrets of the Torah. And it's supposed to only teach it like one-on-one, 2-to-1. So a rabbi, just one a guy, 2 guys there. Why? Because when you're teaching this kind of stuff, it requires practice, which leads to experience. This is not the kind of stuff you can teach from a book. Now, I'm teaching you guys in public. You want to learn how to chant? I'll teach you how to chant. But what are you going to do with it once you have it? Somebody's asking, can they accidentally create a golem? I hope not. I would hate to have to come home and find out that you have some artificial person living in your house, male or female, right? Human or animal. Something. Here's a good halachic question. If you create a golem, does he have to pay rent in your house? Question to ask the rabbi. Reality here. You see, in our Torah tradition, in ancient days, the prophets knew this. They knew the proper way of tonal chanting, which sound then created vibrations, which moved your body. And therefore, when combined with proper thoughts, projected into the outer world, and therefore led to the materialization of that which they sought to create. The secret of the word abracadabra, avara kedabara. I create what I speak. This is the big secret of Ma'aseh Bereshit. Remember how God created the world? It said that he spoke. What language did God speak? Please don't say Hebrew. Oh, please don't say that. Yes, I know that's what the rabbis say, but that's pshat. That is just a metaphor of expression. God didn't speak any human language. If you will, that which we call God. I don't know if anybody knows what God really is. In Sof, who the heck knows? Right? Yes, small face that we interact with and experience is Zerampin. Okay, I got a grasp on that. But Arichampin, what we call the long face, Keter face, above that. Don't ask me. Don't ask anybody. Right? Who knows? But we do know from this source comes forth energy which vibrates in different frequencies. Is this string theory? Quantum theory? Most likely and very possibly all. And at that point of Hiyuli, all points in space, all points in time, all points in consciousness, what the Sefer Yetzirah calls Olam Shana and Nefesh, are all one. And I'm going to tell you a big secret now. Just like if you get into the proper mindset, you travel in your mind. You can go in your mind experientially anywhere in space, anywhere in time. This is how remote viewing works. This is how astral projection works. And when you can create the proper resonant frequency, you can create a shell and actually put a physical ship in there and travel from any point to any point. So for those of you who don't get what I'm saying, Doctor Who, the TARDIS, the technology is real. Rumor has it that our governments have long known this and have been using it for a long time. True? False? Go ask General Eshett. Maybe he'll tell you. But we need to understand. We need to play catch up. This was the level of Adam before the fall. Adam wasn't some guy. He was us. All of us. Which means that if we were there once, we can be there again. And being there again is what we call tikkun, rectification. One of the big things that our Torah teaches us, the Kabbalah especially the secret schools, is something we call Torat HaMashiach, the Torah of Mashiach. In my recent commentary on Genesis, which I wrote this year, I sent it out, it's available. I think I've even put it up on Facebook for those who want to look there. It's on the Patreon page for those who want to look there. I talked about an ancient legend of our sages, which they say that when God created the Torah, he created a black fire on white fire. And again, all too many people misinterpret these things in a pitifully literal way. Black fire, we know the letters of the Torah, which you read. But the black fire letters, the reason why they're called fire, a point that the Baal Shem Tov makes, is that they have to be fluid and not rigid. You know, when it came to the understandings of the oral traditions, for centuries, they didn't want to write it down. Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, Rabbi Judah the Prince, finally put his foot down and said, we have to write something down or it's going to get lost because of the times. And he was terrified to do so. Because everybody knows that once you try to make things rigid, try to make them fluid again, it's like next to impossible. Oral Torah is the life force, the chi of our halacha, our Torah. And that is why we can have the freedom, the liberty, the fluidity of having Ashkenazim and Sephardim and Hasidim and Litvakim and Breslavers and Lubavitchers and all the different kinds. And as we say, Elu ve'elu, divrei Elohim Chaim. These and these are the words of the living God. Because we have that fluidity. And that fluidity is the secret of what we call white fire. It is said that Adam would gaze and see from one end of the world to the other. He read the Torah, both white fire and black fire, recognized both force and form. And when we come to understand our Torah, we need to understand that the way that we see it today, I'm talking about in Hebrew, understanding it as a rabbi would. Forget about everyone else, you just don't get it. Sorry. We still have to look beyond the black Torah to the white Torah behind it. The Baal Shem Tov saw this. The big Kabbalists see this. And that's where they're able to gaze into what we call an invisible world. It's not really invisible. What we call the spiritual realms, it's not invisible. The only reason why we don't see it is because we choose not to see it. It's not visible in the physical spectrum of visible light, but it is visible in the spectrum of this chiyuli, life force. So you got to go there. Expand your mind. Expand your consciousness. How do we do that? Oh, then we just say chanting. Combinations of sounds. Combinations of letters. And they all correspond and form different structures and forms in our physical world. They form the months of the year, the days of the week, the parts of the body, elements of personality and psychology all resonate and vibrate based upon combinations of sounds. In other traditions, this can be called primordial sounds. This type of chanting expands and opens consciousness. We, in our Torah tradition, do not have a monopoly on this. No, we do not. You can go back thousands of years to the writings of Patanjali in his Raja Sutras, right, which is the foundation of what they call Raja Yoga. Oh, it's idolatry. No, it's not idolatry. It's psychology. It's actually physics. It's psychic. And when you read in the second and third chapters, they're about the development of certain psychic expansions through consciousness. It's exactly what happens in the Torah traditions, and that's what we call Ruach HaKodesh. The few who practice this today, at least in the olden days, I don't know if they still do, so I don't know what's going on there today, were the Buddhists of old Tibet. They had secrets. They knew and understand those secrets. That's why the Nazis adopted them into their occult practices. That's why China today holds on to Tibet with a stranglehold. They recognize the powers there. Some will call those powers today occult. Well, if you're using them for nefarious and evil and wrong reasons, then, well, yeah, I guess that would be pretty bad. We call that the occult. It's kind of like, again, going to the gym, building up your big muscles. Why? So you can be a bully and push other people around. Yeah, that's pretty nasty. That's pretty rotten. That doesn't speak bad about getting big muscles. It just speaks bad about you and how you use it. So no one understands that the cultivation, the expansion of consciousness, this is not a gift that comes to fortune tellers or Ruach HaKodesh kind of people. This is something that's natural. It's within us all. The great Rabbi Nachman of Breslov would always speak about his mother. Yeah, his mother, Fegi. She was well-known. This is the daughter of the Baal Shem Tov. She was called a prophetess in her day. She was naturally psychic. She saw things, she felt things, and she experienced these things and told people. And he said, if you ever need something from me, remember me by the name of my mother, because she's the one with the power. Know that these things are real. These are the secrets of creation. The difference between Sodot Ma'aseh Bereshit and Sodot Ma'aseh Merkava. Sodot Ma'aseh Bereshit teaches you about this world, teaches you the foundations, the building blocks. Ma'aseh Merkava, that takes you up there. And you can't get up there unless you get down here first. The schools are sequential. So, when it comes to practicing the Sefer Yetzirah, tonal chants. I'm teaching all about tonal chants now in my writings, and my new book will have it. But I can't teach how to chant in writing. So if I teach you, okay, pronounce an aleph. Well, you can't pronounce an aleph. It doesn't have a pronunciation. So let's just pronounce it with its base vowel. Ah. Okay, what the heck's happening? Aside from driving everybody crazy, sounding like a moron, not much. All right? But when you get the proper tonal done, and if you can do it with music, examples of music, everybody's got their different tastes in music. So don't ask for examples. Me, I listen to the same music today in my 60s. Yeah, I am that old. That I listened to when I was 16. All right? I still listen to Magic Carpet Ride from Steppenwolf. I still listen to Deep Purple's Highway Star. Those are my songs. Right? I can move to those. Rabbanit has her songs from her generation. She listens to stuff. She swears this works for her. Okay? There's no judgment there. To each their own. You know, what works for me is going to work for me. What's going to work for the Rabbanit is going to work for Rabbanit. What works for you is going to work for you. So don't ask for a halacha, because the halacha is written in white fire. best example of an olive I can give you right now in the 2 seconds that I had. And as I did that, I can still feel the vibration in my body. I can feel my mind opening. And if I started to do this, and especially if I started to do this to music, I'd probably frighten you. So this is probably the best stuff not to do on camera. But that's why that's done privately. But these are the secrets of creation. What combinations of letters go with which? Practice, and you'll see. Use the Sefer Yetzirah. Learn which letters go with which letters to create different things. So I can take 3 Hebrew letters, for example, Ein. Yeah, if you look at my writings, I always write the Ein as an N-G. Because in the original old DeSolo Pool prayer books from a century ago, the Ein was never pronounced like they do in Israel today, like an Aleph. An Aleph and an Ein are different. So Ein was always written like an N-G. So when you say Shema, it's Shamang. All right? Now, we won't get into that stuff. Ehad. Remember, a Dalet is always TH aside for that. Okay, getting on with this. When you're putting together letters, the example of an Ein, and for example, Nun, and a Gimel, I can have the word Oneg, which means pleasure. But I can take those 3 letters, twist them around a little bit, put that Nun first, and then put that Ein second, and put the Gimel second, then the Ein last, and now you get a word called Nega. That means plague. One way, it's pleasure. Another way, it's disaster. Sound familiar with real life? In which everything can be one way or another? So there, you learn a little Musar lesson, moralistic teaching. That anything that comes to you that's negative, you, like in the martial arts, you twist, you turn, and you project it out. Like in Tai Chi Chuan, when the negative energy comes into you, you don't block a fist with your face. You take the energy as it comes in, you twist and turn it, and then you transform it from negative to positive, tikkun. And as you practice this, your awareness of how these things work expand. That's called expanding consciousness. You sense it. You feel it. You recognize that it doesn't fit into a form because it's a fluid flow. And you just have to experience this to know what I'm talking about. And if you do, welcome. You've understood the foundations of the secrets of creation. Sodot Maaseh Bereshit. More than that, in the wise words of the great sage Hillel, Zil Gamar, go put it to practice. You got to learn these things, guys. Our world is not getting better. This is a fulfillment of prophecy. This is the coming 50th gate of Tumah. This is the collapse of society as we know it, the end days. It's not coming. It's not coming. It's here. Now, you're in the middle of it. Escape. Freedom. Not this way, not that way. Within will lead you to without. I hope you can learn these things, guys, because that's what we got to do. That's what it's all about. All right. Check out our courses online at the KosherTorah School. Got a whole bunch of good stuff. Consider becoming a monthly supporter. $50 donation per month is what we ask. I'll put you on the special email list. I can send you all my juicy new stuff as it comes out. And you get a whole bunch of other stuff as well. And there's only one way that I allow you to become a student of my school. And that is, guess what? Unlike all these other guys who just want to take your money through the internet, now, I want to talk to you. I actually want to get to know you. You call me. We'll set up a time. We sit and chat. Yeah, I like that personal, one-on-one stuff. All right, so I'm afraid to talk to the rabbi. What do you think I'm going to do? bite you through the internet. Don't be a so-and-so. All right? We all talk. Get to know each other. So this way we can work one-on-one. That's the way I do things. And if other people don't do that, that's their business, like I said. We have a beautiful revolving door here. You're always welcome to come in. You're always welcome to walk out. This is the way we do things. You come into our door. This is the way we do things. And you're welcome, everyone. So, Ariel Bar Tzadok here from the KosherTorah School on behalf of Rabbi Eli and Sierra and Levana. Levana's asleep? We don't know where she is. Yeah, you didn't say little canine babies, right? Do you remember a few weeks back, you go look on the videos online, you have little sweet little Levana. Well, she ain't that little anymore. She's going to get a lot bigger. Baruch Hashem. That's part of our family. Alrighty, guys. God bless. We'll see you all next time. Shalom.